Welcome to the Academy of Esports podcast. I'm your host, James O'Hagan. This week I have Jason Kirby with me. He's the COO of Generation Esports. Jason, thank you so much for being a guest in the Academy of Esports podcast today.
No, thanks for having me. This is great. I'm excited.
And Generation Esports isn't just a company in of itself. It also houses a few other groups that some people may know of, such as HSEL, High School Esports League. Is that where it started? Is Generation Esports like the growth of the High School Esports League?
Yeah, no, happy to kind of fill you in on that. So basically, the High School Esports League was founded in 2012 by our founders as a means to, have what they didn't have in high school and to create that experience around games and gaming culture to, kind of give that space for the kids that may not fit into traditional means or traditional clubs or activities. And it kind of just took off. It was clearly a need for the market. And, while we're all here, because we realize that this is so much more than just video games. This is about, competition. It's about teamwork. It's about education, STEM opportunities, career opportunities, college access. And as things picked up speed, one went from a few schools to dozens of schools to hundreds of schools to thousands of schools. And we really needed technology and a platform to really service that and to be able to keep up with that in a scalable format. Moving away from spreadsheets and Google Docs and stuff like that to a platform that can really house and protect all the data as well as be able to scale the tournament experience. Mm-hmm. And the technology was being built in 2017. We made a bunch of iterations, huge relaunch in 2019 fall when I joined the company. And we realized that we have a technology that can service a lot more than just high school. Mm-hmm. And we decided to work on a new brand that was starting in fall of 2019 when we started conceptualizing the concept of what would become Generation Esports so that we can expand to the entire scholastic pipeline. As you can imagine, High School Esports League is a very limiting, name, a very specific and good name for what it is. But Generation Esports enables us to now have the own and operate the Middle School Esports League, the High School Esports League, and now we power and support the NJCAE Collegiate League, as well as other collegiate conferences that will be joining in fall of 2021. So where now we can cater students from middle school all the way up to college and providing all kinds of access and opportunities with our technology, in addition to supporting some non-scholastic organizations as well, communities that need help getting it set up in esports.
Did you ever think when you were at San Diego State as an Aztec that you would end up being the COO of a company that works in providing gaming and gaming experiences for kids in schools?
Specifically, no.
I don't think many people had that on there. Yeah. When I was 5 and they asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't think it was, an esports anything, because
exactly.
That would have been 1980 and I would have just been looked at weirdly.
No, had no idea this would be my path. Always an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneurial mindset. Had my own business in college. I was fortunate enough to shortly after college to sell that business, both of them, and move on to other things into the startup world, which led me to a company called Liquid Sky. It was like a cloud gaming company. Okay. And that got me introduced into the gaming world. I was the kid that was always a generation behind in terms of consoles and PCs. So I never got to really keep up with the Joneses and my friends, and, was never had the good enough equipment to hang with my buddies. Mm-hmm. And so Liquid Sky saw that problem for kids like me that, can't spend $2,000 on a PC and, can spend, a monthly fee and have access to all the top games on any device. Mm-hmm. And did a bunch of deals in esports, with different orgs, and that exposed me to that. Then we sold to Walmart at the end of 2018. And not a lot of people know that. It was supposed to be a big announcement that got not announced. But
I know there was talk for a while of Walmart wanting to do gaming centers.
Yep. They had that. No, that exists. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they partner with Esports Arena, and they have, I think, 25 locations now in Walmart's. Yeah, that's great. I know those people very well. It's an awesome team. That's great initiative. But we were supposed to build Walmart Gaming, which was a whole entertainment division that we were going to be leading up, and plans changed, and that no longer happened. And that's what led me down the path to be introduced to HSEL, which one of my friends is on the board, and found out about my situation with Walmart and was like, I think this might be a good fit for you. And I've always had a passion for education and creating access and opportunities. I was a Big Brother in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. Just opened my eyes to just like, if kids just know what could be, they could dream and they could want things and they could pursue things that are outside of their purview of their current world. And that's just always been an intrigue of mine. It's always been something I'm passionate about, donate to those types of, causes that help create those opportunities. And when I found out that I could help introduce a new sport, a new extracurricular activity that is so much more than a traditional sport in terms of the STEM and, college access opportunities that are there, it was just all the flags were raising, like you need to jump on this and jump 2 feet in.
And well, you certainly did. I mean, I think when you joined, it was still HSEL, but Generation Esports is, again, a rebranding, or I guess, kind of like how Google is not actually Google, it's Alphabet.
That's a better analogy.
Yeah. So Generation Esports kind of is the umbrella organization, top-down approach. Okay. So, I come from a world where, in education, where we're bootstrapping, right? We've done, there's a lot of, especially in the Midwest, we have a lot of non-for-profit state associations. What is the thing, I guess, that as people are looking to make a choice, hopefully they've thought beyond the game and they've thought beyond the games that they're going to play. But what is it that you find, again, I want to make sure, again, that this is clear. I am a part of a nonprofit state association. My teams participate in the nonprofit state association, but I know that's not always a fit for everybody. Okay. What is the fit for HSEL and for the middle school league as well, too? Where are you finding that your participants are coming from, or what are they looking for that maybe, a Play Versus is not offering, or a NASEF is not offering, or a state association isn't offering?
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to choice, flexibility, scalability, and equal and fair competition, scholarships, choosing what games are right for their school and being able to compete in those games, being able to support competition for a game that maybe not so popular, but it gets 2 kids in the program that wouldn't otherwise participate in anything else. It's, the accessibility of like just we're a phone call away. We have a whole staff, dedicated to just onboarding and supporting, participation. We do so much education for teachers, coaches, staff, to kind of be like, okay, what is esports? How does this work? How am I protecting my students online? How are we doing this? We answer all those questions. We make our phone number, and you can book 15, 30 minutes with our staff at any point in time directly on our website, to basically, handhold all these people as they venture into something that is a very, very new thing. It's a hard concept for people to understand.
Well, and it's not just hard for some teachers or parents even understand, but school district administrators or people who have been told for years that video games is the awful thing and it's going to cause brain rot and, cause violence and all these other things.
It's like, it's so frustrating when people still have that mindset. But
well, especially that, again, I'm a child of the 80s. I was 5 years old in 1980, so I grew up with Pac-Man and Atari and Nintendo. And you don't see me out, committing murder. But again, the same thing was said about Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons was the gateway to the devil and was, causing a rise in satanic cults. And no, actually what we found is it created a rise in really good creative writing, and story mapping and,
game design
exactly.
Great paying job.
Absolutely. And here's the thing I will say that I do admire about HSEL and I guess the whole organization is that you did allude to, and I think it's important to point out, you do have the largest selection of games supported that I have seen anybody do yet. I mean, it is like, if now again, just more of a personal preference, our state association, our school district will not support M-rated games. But I believe you have Rainbow Six Siege, you have Call of Duty, correct? Okay. How do you square that? Again, to each their own, right? I'm going to say, like, it's a local decision. But how does HSEL specifically square that with mature rated and minors?
So the kids are playing the games anyways. They're already playing the games, and a lot of the reasons why schools evade it, and also like publishers are kind of don't necessarily want to promote and mature rated games to high school, middle school, and whatnot. We have a very good relationship with all the publishers. We have good arrangements with all of them to ensure that these games will be able to be offered in the way that we do it. But ultimately, it comes down to and one of the reasons why we get people choose us to compete with us is because they get to choose what's right for their students. They know their students better than we do. Mm-hmm. They know their students better than the superintendent does. They know their students better than the state does. And they know what's going to help those kids perform better in school, perform better as digital citizens online. And, by us offering it as a choice, they're able to, present that as an option to their school, their students. And they tend to be the most popular and most talked about and most engaged games because they are the highest performing games. And it has nothing to do with it being a shooter and their gore on the team. It's about teamwork and the competitive nature of what is required to compete at that level in those games, and the amount of communication that has to go back and forth in order to succeed. Because you can't just pick up a controller, get up to a computer and be good at those games. It takes an extensive amount of practice and commitment, and that's what the colleges are recruiting for. Colleges are spending millions of dollars in esports and are paying out scholarships, and they're paying out scholarships for these games in particular in a lot of cases.
And if let's say that I am a school leader and our school has decided that, yes, we want to go down this path with, say, Call of Duty. Is there anything that HSEL or Generation Esports provides that can maybe help when I do come into those situations where I have a parent who is really just I really want my kid to be part of this, but I can't square with the violence in the game? Is there anything that HSEL or Generation Esports offers in that realm?
There's standard releases. So we have a little folder of codes of conduct, release forms and things of that sort that we offer, schools to use if they don't want to make their own, and they kind of take it as a template and make it, tweak it for themselves to either have parental consent or, what the code of conduct would be. But ultimately it's this, and that's one thing about our education system as a whole, is just the epitome of fragmentation. And every decision and where the decisions are making, not even at the state, to the district, to the school, to the teacher, to the parent, decisions are being made independently of each other in a lot of ways. And it comes down to the kid doesn't have to play in Call of Duty. If the parent wants to be in esports but doesn't want them to play in Call of Duty, as long as the kid's not trying to rebel against the parent directly because they want to play Call of Duty and the parent just misunderstands their child. But if they're oh, we don't want them involved in violent games, okay, play Rocket League. It's they could still be a part of it, and Rocket League's easy to pick up, hard to master. It's a great solution for a lot of
possible to master. No, I was kidding.
Yeah, exactly. I can't fly the whole time. I see these guys. I'm just
how do you get your car that high?
Yeah, where do you get the boosters? How did they run out? How do you get them?
How do you get your car that high and then flip it in the air at the same time? I mean, whatever.
It's impressive.
Okay, so the thing I think that is really cool that you also do is you support middle school. Now, again, there's junior college, but talk about the growth at middle school, because I see so much. I mean, you just brought up Rocket League. That's the perfect gateway game when it comes to I mean, it really is. Yeah. Let's think about it. It's soccer with cars, or basketball if you choose that.
Easiest option to explain. Yeah.
Yeah, it's soccer with cars, but it's also cross-platform. If you have a computer, or you have a Switch, or you have an Xbox, or you have a PlayStation, you can play. What has you seen at the middle school level with growth? This year is kind of hard to say, but in the recent past, as far as growth goes at middle school.
Well, it was kind of fascinating. When I came in to HSCL July of last year, 2019, the team in particular, our chief customer officer, Charlie, was just I get tons of calls about middle schools, but we don't know what to do with them, because it's clearly it's a different game. In high school, you're 13 and older. They can create their own accounts. We manage and protect that data. but under the age of 13, there's a whole set of new laws and rules that we have to abide by.
Yes.
To protect student privacy. And so that was like a bit of, that's a burden we have to understand and respect, and follow the processes to do so, to make sure we're not collecting any private identifying information on minors or under the age of 13. And so basically we came up, but we were just getting bombarded with questions and comments, like a lot of high schools that have middle schools attached to them wanting to bring in their middle schools and all this kind of stuff. And we're like, we hear you. We want to make this happen. We just have to make sure we do it in a way to kind of, one, also test the market, because this is a big investment into our platform and product to basically create these kind of restrictions and how we handle user data. But it was just, the demand was bigger than we thought. We were forecasting maybe like 50 to 100 schools to start, and I think we had 300, and we couldn't even get them all in time, because COVID obviously just threw everything in the world. So the fact that we blew our forecast away for middle school, and we every day another middle school asking to sign up for the next season. There's just so much pent up demand, because teachers and family and parents and schools are realizing, like, these kids are already playing the games. It is the most it's the biggest source of entertainment for them. And like, I always like to make this comparison, like, Netflix's competition is not Disney Plus, HBO Max, it's Fortnite. Like it's timeshare for entertainment. And these kids are spending all their time on that. And like, some people see it as toxic or, bad behavior, being in front of a computer screen all the time. But ultimately, bring them into a classroom with adult supervision, a structured curriculum with their peers. It creates a powerful environment for them to learn and affiliate, happiness, community, a sense of belonging and success to school, because they're not bringing it to school.
Yeah, I see it all the time with middle school. And I've said it here before. I was an elementary school teacher for many years, and I worked at the high school level, and I've also worked at middle school. And middle school is like a completely different beast. And for a lot of these kids, it's their first time that they haven't had a homeroom teacher where they've been all day. For example, like, that 5th grade class, that self-contained class. And they're trying to find their way, and they're trying to find it. And it's funny you talk about the growth at middle school, because just in the last week, I had 2 of my own middle schools reach out to me and go, so that thing you're doing at the high school, can we do that at middle school level too? And I'm like, yes, we can. Yes, let's do this. Because you're right. Those kids, especially, for a lot of them, middle school is hard enough as it is. They're going through all kinds of changes. Their school structure has flipped almost completely, and now they're in more of like a high school-ish kind of mindset. I see that as being a key for a lot of kids moving forward. And again, the game titles like Rocket League, or even now competitive Minecraft building is becoming something that is, it's again a gateway. A lot of kids have experience in Minecraft already, and now it's just saying, hey, let's do what you already do really well and make it a competitive build experience and show off your coding and show off your build skills. What other titles are people looking at or using at the middle school level that then you're pulling up the list? I'll keep talking.
Yeah, I know. I just don't want to mess it up. So, Rocket League, Super Smash, Minecraft, and Mario Kart. And we do offer Fortnite as well. Just want to make sure that, that's what we have offered. We did experiment with a couple other games like Just Dance, or there's another one. I can't remember the name of it, but we experiment with a couple other titles just to kind of see if we can get like some movement involved with the kids, as well as trying to target a broader audience, try to get maybe young girls involved as opposed to just young boys. Help create some more gender diversity at a younger age, which will hopefully lead to more gender diversity as they get older. If they're playing and growing up together in this environment, they'll hopefully carry that on. Sure. So that's a kind of a big initiative for us, is really increasing more diversity, equity, and inclusion across the board. We felt middle schools would be a good angle for that. We want to kind of consider things like Roblox and other really popular games with that kind of like sub 13-year-old group. But this was kind of like our first initial launch. And the beauty of our platform and our relationship with the publisher is we can kind of like pitch a game, kind of like, hey, like, let's try Just Dance. It didn't get the traction that we were hoping for. And I think it was probably because people just didn't really see it as maybe an esport, or they didn't own the game itself. And we're able to kind of communicate to the group and like saying, okay, the participation isn't where we need it to be to form a formal competition to be successful. So we moved it in the preseason before the season actually kicked off, type thing. So we had that kind of flexibility and autonomy to create an experience that matches what people want. So we're looking to expand our Minecraft options, and we're talking to Microsoft about those and what those look like, as they've made some recent announcements that are perfect for middle schoolers. We do have elementary schools coming to us now that we have middle school. And they're like, oh no, they have middle school. Can you do elementary school?
Oh yeah.
The game options get a little more limiting, but at the end of the day, it just comes down to like, just get them in the, get their butts in seats, with the teacher, with a formal structure, and then, allow them to kind of play games in that environment as opposed to just playing online at home, on whatever open internet with whoever they might be playing with, type thing.
Yep. Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how there's some game developers who will just say, well, if they can't play in a league that we support, they could just go play in the community. It's like, do you realize who a lot of these kids are coming to us because of trauma from their gaming experiences. Yeah. As you just described, well, just go play whomever you find in.
Some of these games can be pretty toxic.
Few of them.
Yeah, there's some that come to mind in particular that on the open internet, there's a lot more toxicity and hostility in those games over others. Yeah. And they definitely need more league structure and in, like safe environments for equal peers. But hey,
well, I think it's going to be hopefully this generation who sees, because we grew up again with that, going to a 7-Eleven or going to an arcade and just playing your games there. And occasionally you'd play against somebody else, but then it was NES and going to a friend's house, and it was, you're going to a friend's and it was fine and it was safe. And then the internet came in, and now your living room is in somebody else's living room. Yeah. And I think this is going to be the generation of kids who grow up and go, you know what, that whole thing where we were all thrown in together into this giant mass of just luck of the draw community picking. Yeah, that's not for everybody. And I think they're going to become the parents who say, why aren't we not providing more safe structure around all of this? So hopefully it's going to be the parents of, the kids who are now in it. Yeah. The kids now, when they grow up, can hopefully put those pressures on developers, because it's amazing how game developers want us to use their games. But at the same time, Eddie, I know you say you have really good relationship with game developers. I don't feel that across the board when it comes to education or educators in general. A lot of times it feels like, again, this isn't for school, but we're using it as an educational tool. So where is there a potential, I guess, for some kind of middle of the road meeting where we can get educators at the table to explain just how awesome some of these game titles are for our kids? Or what is Generation Esports doing to help facilitate that conversation?
It comes a lot with scale for these publishers, where they kind of run into friction that they've communicated to us is just like, the one-off or like kind of like smaller groups just becomes either one, a liability concern because it's hard to hold that group accountable for a small group when there could be thousands of these types of groups. Whereas like going with one, larger, more scalable partner makes things a little bit more easier to manage. Mm-hmm. And we've been fortunate enough to kind of have that reach and that scale that gives them that kind of comfort to where one, they can have a check at their door, for working with and getting their cut of the pie, which is very important, which I learned in my Liquid Sky days and Walmart days. Publishers don't work for free. That is a very, very clear rule and guideline. And then just being able to have like a point of contact or someone to kind of cast a new ruling on, as opposed to managing thousands of groups that claim a formal structure, wouldn't it be almost impossible to enforce that level of structure to any kind of net ROI? Now, I wish there was more of a feels goods with the realization of the impact in education, to where they would have a little bit more commitment and involvement into it, realizing the impact. But I think the best way to say it, just like principals and superintendents and school state officials avoiding like mature rated games or shooters out of fear of a parent, cracking down on them and raising all like a parent that happens to be a lawyer who's going to be that one that like, scares them or causes concern, which is not really the reality in any way, shape, or form.
I disagree, but I'll disagree only because I realize just how fragile esports is in our schools sometimes, because it gets thrown at me every day. Just when I think I have all the allies lined up, there are some who look at us and go, wait, for example, why do you need access to the weight room? You're just the gaming video game team. Okay. Or you just get that one board member who just goes, I don't like that. Yep. And it's weird where we are finding our allies in this, and it's weird where we're finding our pushback in some places. So I don't share, I guess, your feel about that with regards to, what are we afraid of? It's not so much that it's fear. It's like, I want to just give this a time to grow and become part of culture. And once it becomes part of culture, now it's much easier to have that conversation of let's try this out over here. If I had started with Call of Duty, I would have never gotten through day one. It would have been uphill fights all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so, you hit it on the nail with that sense of culture and like, more mainstream. Like COVID, while it did like crush schools in just every way, shape, or form, talk about the burden being put on, teachers and school officials and parents, family, everything. But this conversation around esports has accelerated significantly due to what do we do with no sports? Oh, esports is possible. While some schools basically made it a blanket ban across the board, no extracurriculars, period.
Oh, we fought that too.
Oh yeah, that was just like, come on, like, what are these?
We can't even fundraise. Yeah, no, you can't fundraise. What? Why? Well, because the football team can't. Yes, but my season starts in a couple of weeks. Wait, how do you have a season? We're completely online, just like our school. So yeah,
that explains. Yeah. It's but what's interesting is like the conversation is now accelerated around esports, and is it still mainstream? We're still a tiny little blip on the radar in the grand scheme of things. When you think about traditional athletics, I think it's like what I keep forgetting that it was like 7 million or 14 million. I think it's like 7 million kids in high school are playing like traditional sports. But what's funny is like I think it's like 15 million kids in high school. No, it's more than that. I keep forgetting my numbers. Yeah, I think it's like 30 million high school kids, and like almost half of them are like a third of them are playing sports. But 80% of them playing video games.
Right.
And it's just like, how can we overlook that stat? But it's that structure in that environment, because they really do need that support. Like one thing that's been unique with us, that's kind of like, it's a double-edged sword in a lot of ways, is like we've been very grassroots. We didn't raise $100 million to just basically, buy our way into things. We had to really create a movement and a sense of passion from students and teachers up the chain to make people realize like, oh, like little Billy or little Sarah never spoke ever, and now they're wanting to lead a new club on campus.
Yeah.
And they have like a sense of passion. They set up a Facebook page, they set up all the an Instagram, all this kind of stuff, and they're like growing, and they got like 20 kids involved. Okay, we got something here. And to where it becomes almost impossible for any decision maker to kind of say no to that kind of momentum.
Yeah. And we see it too. Just like as you described, those kids who before had been quiet, passive, never heard boo from them. They didn't end up in the office, but all of a sudden now are in-game leaders or leading entire clubs. Yeah, coaches, exactly.
Running the social media account, learning real work, real life skills. Like it's those stories and those data points that ultimately shift the conversation for us. And, we're investing heavily now into, working more closely with the states, working more closely with the districts and the higher ups as we continue to fuel that grassroots kind of bottom up approach, so that when they all finally kind of convene, it's just a natural conclusion. Because the last thing you want is like you get a principal or a superintendent super excited. Oh, this makes a lot of sense. This looks great. Any kids? any kids? And then, anyone want to do this? And like, there's not awareness there yet. And so while if they just put up a flyer on campus, there'd be 100 kids that show up. It's not, it's not apparent yet. So we're trying to make it louder and, make it more a part of everyone's normal life that this is real. We're going to be investing a lot into content to make it easier to share and understand what this all is. Trying to promote schools to stream more so they can drum up awareness for their programs on campus and kind of bolster them and get them call outs. We have some really cool ideas. I can't speak to them just yet, but I think it's going to really kind of ignite a lot more of that grassroots movement to where, oh, did you see XYZ, school is, playing this game? Like, oh yeah, why does our school have that program? Type thing. And that's a lot of how our growth has happened. It's just word of mouth. I think it's pretty confident to say 95% of our business has been word of mouth and, inbound. And we're just now starting to really invest into the kind of top down approach.
So let me ask this, let's segue, because you're also making investments and making inroads into other things, such as the development of some esports labs.
Yes.
So let's talk about, please give the pitch, if you will.
So we've been drumming this up for a couple of years now. Just like the biggest pain point we always get coming back to us is like, we want this program, but we do not have the equipment. We do not have the space. We don't have the resources. We don't have the funding. And we're just like, we can't solve, 25,000 high schools, financial, concerns in that regard, but we can really spark a movement and we can start to like have a conversation and serve specifically the underserved, schools that are, grossly overlooked for their potential with esports or, don't have the means for really any extracurricular funding. And so we've gathered up some partners to help fund and fuel this campaign where we're going to be giving away, let me say this, we're going to be building 6 PCs at 25 high schools across America, in 2021. Absolutely, free to the schools. It's a simple grant application. You can check it out at hscl.org/esports-lab, or just go to hscl.org. You'll find the link. And schools just simply, apply, fill out the application, tell us their story, show pictures of their facility, kind of tell us what their vision is. And we're going to be working with the Army National Guard, the ASUS for our hardware, Intel, and Extreme Networks, to where we're going to be going into these 25 schools. And it's not just about, hey, here's 6 PCs, have fun. We realize that there needs to be more involved. We want these kids to respect these machines. We want them to understand these machines and that it's not just another, school computer, and learn something from it, learn an actual skill. So we're bringing in experts to actually teach these kids how to build these PCs. So they're not just, going to have a PC there. We're going to ship all the components, all ASUS and Intel components will be shipped there, all set up on the tables for the kids to learn what is the CPU and why is it important? What are gigahertz and how does it impact, the performance of your game or the software you're running? What is RAM and why do you need RAM and what is it doing and what's happening when you're running your games? What's it storing? What's the purpose of your video card? And explaining to them so they understand. Because like I feel like this world is so much around software, whereas like when you grew up, in the 80s, it's all about hardware, and it's all about what hardware you're getting. Conversations really shifted away from hardware as we move into the cloud, and I think there's still a lot of lessons learned that future engineers from these programs might be like, they might be like, oh, I want to be a hardware engineer, or I want to be a software engineer. And these are all like incredibly high demand, high paying jobs that hopefully we maybe spark a few kids inspiration to that, but also just have them have respect for the machines and know that, oh, something, goes wrong, they could feel comfortable opening up the case and like experimenting and playing with it. Ultimately, we want to make sure the IT director knows what's going on and make sure they have full control over anything and everything that's going on in those labs. But ultimately, it's just an amazing activation that is not just about here's free gear, but here's an opportunity for you kids to either start an esports program or at least get them out of going to the LAN centers down the street and coordinating travel, or playing at home and where it's kind of fragmented in communication. Bring them into that central environment because if you give kids jerseys, a room, and a teacher or coach that cares about them, the magic that happens with that combination is just, forever, giving back to those kids' experiences and what they might, become, and what experiences they have in that sense of community. So that's why we built it. We've been trying to get partners for the last year or so to get rallied up behind that. And Army National Guard came in full support, trying to create these opportunities, specifically targeting those, where we could find those schools that really need this, and working at the biggest impact. And then ASUS coming in with the equipment, Intel with the CPUs and additional support. And I forgot to mention Extreme Networks, the official networking sponsor for the NFL, does all the Wi-Fi in all the major stadiums. They're going to be upgrading the network infrastructure for one lucky school. We want to do all schools, but it's extremely expensive to do.
A little bit, yes.
School. Yeah. So they'll be getting like network redundancy, ultra low latency peering to the game servers, data centers, all that kind of stuff within the region. It's going to be a pretty massive upgrade. And we'll be filming some of this stuff as well. We'll do one particular school. We'll do a whole education series that will be available online of the Build a PC thing brought to you by Intel. So there's going to be a lot of cool activations. A little bit of a logistical nightmare once we choose the schools and like coordinating all that stuff. But yeah, we'll deal with that when it comes.
I've been building PCs now for probably about 30 years. And it's something that once you learn how to do it, this is what I love about this. Once you learn how to do it, you'll look at, what do I need for this? I'm pointing to like you can see what I'm pointing to. I'm pointing to the gaming computer that I have here. But I bought it as like a refurb with like the most basic components. I'm like, the cost of it was just so minimal. And again, it was a refurb, so it was open box already. And I just looked at it and went, oh, I can replace this, and this, and get, instead of having a $1,000 PC, now I have what would sell for like $2,500, just because I replaced, a hard drive with, a solid state drive, just because I upped the RAM, just because I upped the video card. Again, it's a skill set that I think is really, once you see just how, like, it is intricate, but it really is a simple machine. As you said, it's motherboard, RAM, CPU, hard drive, and power, and a video card. A video card is technically not even needed because most motherboards already have one built in. I mean, you're not going to game very well, but you can still run a computer.
You can play Minecraft.
You can play League of Legends. Again, it can run on a potato, as people like to say. But I've also, you and I've had a very open, honest conversation about the sponsorship. And I really appreciate, first off, that we have been able to have this, because I think especially with the state of the world, the way that it is, everything can become very polarizing, and people, take things to extremes. This is not an extreme conversation, and I hope it didn't come off the way that it did when I reached out to you. But, I immediately raised concern about the U.S. Army National Guard sponsorship. And it isn't that I've had students, I've had negative experiences with the military. In fact, all of my students who have ever chosen to serve in the military in whatever form have become very successful adults. They've had very positive experiences serving in the military. But I can't, again, as I try to, coach people through certain things like this, one of the things that came up, of course, was, well, I like everything about the grant, but what is the Army going to expect out of this? I think that's the big question is, they're putting their name top of center on this. You've promoted this with U.S. Army National Guard as being prominent. What is going to be their ask when all is done?
They want exposure to kind of show that they're forward thinking in supporting esports. They realize that gamers turn out to be better service members in terms of what the future of the military requires, and they want to actually support the communities more so. Of course, they have requirements. They want to recruit. There's so many restrictions in terms of what they can and cannot do. They're under incredible scrutiny in any way, shape, or form, whether it's warranted or not. And ultimately, when we came to them with this concept, it was an amazing opportunity for them to have goodwill with schools and the communities involved. Their ask is simply to we're establishing. I probably can't speak of it just yet, but we're working very closely with the National Guard and other aspects as well. And we want to kind of have relevant service members to speak of obviously their opportunities and career opportunities, specifically all focused on STEM careers. This is for me, it's like military opens doors that would never be opened otherwise for people all across the country. And our core value as a company is to put our student athletes first, put the esport athlete front and center and what their needs are. And second is, how do we create opportunities for them? And this was such a home run in terms of creating opportunities, because not every kid takes every single opportunity, but the fact that they're at least having education on what these opportunities are, they're aware of opportunities. And this is strictly around focusing on STEM careers in the military that they want to have the option to present. But as far as what's the negativity that happened recently over the summer with the Army, not necessarily the National Guard, but the Army, obviously sparked some buzz and stuff like that because it was Twitch, open platform. But with us in particular, we're following very strict rules and guidelines, being very respectful of the schools, making sure that they're obviously very well aware of the partners. That's why I put them front and center. And that they have a say in terms of if they are selected, they have a choice of whether or not to involve the National Guard in terms of the actual physical activation, which is more of just a short presentation and an opportunity for ideally what will be the esports members of that state's esports team for the National Guard to partake and potentially have an exhibition match against the students on their new equipment, which we thought would be like kind of a fun activation. Whether that's remote or in person, depending on our COVID situation. That's another circumstance we're having to overcome.
Will this be during the summer? That was a question actually that came up with my general managers today, because we were looking at the grant as well, and they wanted to know, so when are they going to
build it?
Put these in? Yeah, build these.
It basically comes down to scheduling. So once we choose our 25 schools, we'll know and announce by February 15th.
Okay.
The plan is to basically just hey, when can we come and when is it appropriate? And here's our guidelines. Here's what we require. We need this space. We want to make this an activation for the students. We don't want to just show up and dump these off and leave. This is about having an impact. This is so much more than just the equipment. And we'll give schools will ultimately have a final say in what's appropriate for them, just how we treat them with our league. Like they have to say what games are available and whatnot. So really giving those schools those choices as to what's appropriate and what's needed for them.
And again, with all this, it comes down to, again, what are your stakeholders? Because you talked about, again, local control, M-rated games, no go in my school district, no go in my state association. But again, that's our choice. Yeah. Just the same with your grant. Your grant options are you can apply or not. If you and your stakeholders are fine with the Army National Guard as sponsors of this, fine. If yours are not, that's okay too. I think, especially in education, there is, we always are facing, or it feels like we're always facing declining budgets. We're always feeling like things are getting cut, things are getting lost, things are getting shifted around. I just want to make sure that as people start to look at opportunities like this one that you proposed, which I wish I could teach every single one of my Scholar gamers how to build a PC. Like I wish if I could have 200 kits, it's only going to cost me, well, let's see, about $400,000 or $500,000, depending, right around there. I want to have that experience for them. But again, I have to square that with the stakeholders of my community, with my general managers, with the people who say, hey, yes, we're all for this, or no. Yeah. So as people are looking at this, again, have the conversation with your community stakeholders, with your team, because again, it is a really cool opportunity that you're offering. It's just one that really should be, again, as with any grant, as with any sponsorship, as with anything that we are doing with this, research who the company is that you're doing business with or who wants to do business with you, because you only get one chance to do this right, especially. So
Yeah, it's crucial for us to be successful, to build goodwill with these schools and give them this opportunity that will be everlasting. It's going to
Right.
power schools' ability to compete and participate and run a program for at least 4 years, to which they should have a pretty good case study, to justify the funding moving forward within either it's raising money within the community or raising money from the district or state, whatever funding resources they have at their disposal. But if football is being funded and baseball is being funded and all these other programs are being funded, there is no case against esports. And if anything, esports justifies a bigger investment. In some cases, it could be a lot cheaper to run than some of these other programs significantly. Especially if there's no travel.
Well, and I don't know anybody in esports who's getting CTE, but
we shall see.
Well, well, with all that,
we shall see. There are some very interesting things that we have developed and we're working on to enable access to those budgets.
No, CTE.
Yeah, CTE budgets.
No.
Oh,
the brain disease, brain damage.
Oh, God, yeah. I thought you were talking about the education.
No.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Wait,
sorry.
Did I? No, I wasn't wrong. Well, we'll just go back to the video later.
Jason, I thought you were talking about career and technical education curriculum.
Oh no, no. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. It's not CT. Is it CT?
Maybe I just was in a different mindset.
Hold on. Jason Kirby. While I do this really quickly, yes, CT. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy, not CTE budgets. Okay, gotcha. There we go. Jason.
I would clear that up because that would have sounded really weird.
Yeah, I'm like going, wait a minute, how are we getting CTE? And okay. This is going to go down.
Comedic break.
This is going into the archives, right? This is the Hall of Fame clip. Let me ask you this. Generation Esports, where can people get more information about it? What are the ways to connect, and where can they learn more?
So I do want to make one point that I don't think I made clear. On Generation Esports, something that we're rolling out, specifically some trials in spring, but predominantly very big in fall, is localized communities. So obviously HSCL has been known for its national, league, its presence, the national championships we stream every year or every season. That will still be fully intact. That gives everyone the options. But as states and local regions want to kind of enforce more control in order to enable esports, our technology enables us to roll out specific finite communities to which only students from those schools, from those regions, will have access to those particular tournaments, where the governing body of that region or district or state will be able to dictate the terms, the games, schedules, all that kind of stuff. So we're working with states and districts across the country right now to set that up, to make sure that they have a scalable platform that protects user data, has all the infrastructure they need, that all the support, the publisher licenses to run the tournaments, kind of the full package suite. So any districts, states, schools that are interested in having that more local competitive experience where they're facing the same schools, they know that that their football team plays or the baseball team plays, we're setting up that experience going into 2021, which we think it's been a big demand. A lot of people like what the technology and the experience, but they kind of want that control and or local feel. So that's a big piece of what we'll be investing into in 2021 and releasing. So very excited about that, and very excited to be releasing that to support a lot of kind of the fragmented communities that exist that are often underfunded, don't necessarily have the resources to kind of maintain and run tournaments as they grow, and being able to leverage our infrastructure to do so. So that's going to be exciting. To learn more, you can just reach out to generationesports.com or hscl.org for the High School Esports League, or mscl.org for middle school. And if people want to reach out to me personally, you can just reach me out at jason@generationesports.com.
Perfect. And yeah, I love that too. The league within the league, if you will, is what you're talking about. So
Jason, would be separate. They would have their own little separate entities that
right.
At scale would eventually maybe lead to their own independent championships that move up the ranks. But at this point, giving them that control that's separate.
Yep. Jason Kirby, COO of Generation Esports. Thank you for being a guest today on the Academy of Esports podcast.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
That will do it for this week on the Academy of Esports. I've been your host, James O'Hagan. Esports are organized competitive video games allowing schools to redefine their athletic culture, diversify opportunities for student participation, promote good physical and mental health, increase collegiate scholarship pathways, and play games. We can never forget the importance of play. The mission of the Academy of Esports is to support these ideals. The vision of the Academy of Esports is for all students to experience the fun and joy of playing competitive video games. You may follow me on Twitter at Jim O'Hagan. That's at JIMOHAGAN, and through the Academy of Esports account at TAO Esports. It's a great way to get the latest blog posts, podcast episodes, and news coming out of esports and education. And remember, you can continue your engagement by going to www.taoesports.com. You can also connect through Facebook at www.facebook.com/TAOesports. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to our time again next week.